Hey everyone, I'm Rena, founder of You and Your Story. Welcome back to Marketing Ninja Unleashed. We are right in the middle of season 5, and I really hope the last guest episode gave you as much food for thought as it gave me. There's always something that comes up in those conversations that I'm still thinking about days later. Today is actually a solo episode, and I've been really deliberate about how I've shaped this one because all 4 of today's topics actually build on each other. And they build on each other in a way that I think makes your entire marketing strategy click. Today is all about building things properly. We're covering brand strategy, what it actually means to have a meaningful purpose, vision, and values, and why the most important piece of work you can do for your business is your internal culture, why your team is actually part of your brand and how to turn them into your most powerful ambassadors, and how events and communicating before, during, and after is really powerful. And brand experiences, what it genuinely feels like when it's a good brand experience. So let's get into it. So I want to start with 3 words that I think get used a lot, but actually aren't given the depth that they deserve. And they are purpose, vision, and values. And I want to be clear from the start. I'm not talking about the version of these that gets plastered on your website, that gets plastered on a wall and never really looked at. I mean the version that actually shapes decisions, the version that your staff respond to, the ones that they turn to when things go wrong in business. Your purpose is why you exist. It's the reason your business exists beyond making money. It's what you're trying to change, create, or improve in the world. For You and Your Story, my purpose is really simple. Every single business owner has a story to tell and something that's worth sharing. My job is to share that story in a way that genuinely connects and helps you grow your business. This is a purpose that shapes absolutely everything. The clients that I take on, the way I talk about myself on here, in my videos, on my LinkedIn, the articles that I write, everything comes back to that one purpose. What's your purpose? If you can't answer that in less than 2 sentences, you need to do some work. Vision is where you're going. Your vision is your future state for the business, the thing that you are building towards. It needs to be ambitious enough to inspire action and clear enough to be useful and provide some direction. It's not a tagline, and it really should not be used as one. And it gives everyone in your business, including yourself, something to aim for beyond the next quarter. Your values form the principles that actually shape how you make decisions and how you do certain things. They're the real ones, not the aspirational ones that you post on a website. Your real values show up in difficult situations, especially when it's difficult client situations. What you're willing to say no to, how you treat your team when things get stressful, and they do get stressful. When purpose, vision, and values are defined and lived, most importantly, they need to be lived, something really shifts. Your marketing starts working better. It starts actually connecting because not only are your team working better, actually your customers are starting to feel it. And that's the most important part of all. I've worked with lots of businesses who've got beautiful products and fantastic services, but actually they've got no brand strategy underneath. And I've watched them struggle to get their messages out. Everything seems a little bit different. No one's really working towards the same purpose. When things get stressful, everything becomes a bit more sporadic and nobody really knows what they need to do or what they stand for. That's not good in a business. I've also worked with businesses on the other side, the ones who have a very clear purpose, vision, and a set of values that they work towards. They're the ones that are making decisions quickly. They're the ones where all their marketing actually makes sense, where their customers are continually coming back again because they're sharing the same consistent message, because every single one of their touch points is talking from the same hymn sheet. And that's what you need to do. So my advice to you is this: get completely clear on your purpose, vision, and values, and then build everything else on top of that. The next topic flows directly from what I've talked about brand strategy, because you can have the most beautifully designed proposition. Your purpose, vision, and values can be completely clear, because if your people aren't connecting with your purpose, vision, and values, they don't feel connected. And that means the outside won't feel connected either. Your customers aren't going to recognize that. I've said it before on this podcast and in my videos, and I'll keep saying it. Your internal culture is not separate from your marketing. It should be a part of it, and it should actually be the foundation of it. The brands that I admire the most are the ones that have a very clear internal culture that works really well for them. Because you can feel that. You can feel that in the consistency in who you speak to, where you see them, how their brand actually shows up. Their teams understand what the brand strategy actually is, and they deliver that when they're talking to someone, when they're on the phone, when they're doing their content, whatever it is. Every single one of those touch points links together. And that's because the staff feel like part of the brand and part of the brand story. Last year, I spent some time with Lisa Culver and her team at ProMedica 24. I attended a lunch with them to understand what their business was actually about and how they treated their clients. And as I was watching, there was something that was really, really clear. You could see Lisa's passion for the business, but not just Lisa's passion. Every single one of those carers had the same sort of passion for their clients and for what they do. And you could see in the way that they treated their clients, the way they helped their clients. They helped them to build memories. They helped them to feel dignified. They helped them to make connections and build memories. That's what their entire purpose was about. Because Lisa once told me that some of these people don't have any interactions throughout the day. Sometimes the only person they speak to is that carer. So Lisa's purpose for ProMedica 24 was to make sure that interaction was actually the best interaction that that person had all day, something that they look forward to on a regular basis when they were to see their carers. And it wasn't just a simple task and a transactional one. Actually, they were starting to make friends with their carers. And when I sat there at that lunch, it all came across. It was really clear. It was clear that you could see that these staff members really, really cared. So Lisa's definitely done something right. She's got a team culture where people genuinely care about her customers. But how do you start doing that in your own business? And how do you build a culture that makes people want to live your purpose? First of all, make sure your team actually knows what you stand for. They understand the purpose, they believe the purpose, and they're there because of that as well. The second bit is to make sure they understand the values and your vision, where you're going, and how you treat people, because you want them to come along on the journey with you. And there are loads of ways that you can do that. One of them is by celebrating them publicly. When they've done something great, share it on your social media. That way, they feel like part of the journey. They feel like they've done something well, and you're including them in your marketing because you're proud of them. That's a real connection there. If you've got frontline workers, staff in front of tills, talking to customers, they've got the best insight you will ever get. Ask them for their opinion. Ask them what questions they're being asked, what their customers are actually talking to them about, and use that information, asking them for their input. And once your staff see that their opinions and their thoughts are actually being incorporated into strategies, they'll start to understand what it means to have a good internal culture, and they'll continue to act in a way that you want them to act. One of the things you can do is host regular internal moments. You want your staff to feel connected. It doesn't need to be complicated. You can have a 30-minute catch-up with a box of biscuits. They need to have that safe space where they can actually ask you questions about the purpose if they don't understand it. That's the only way they're going to feel connected. And once they feel connected and informed, actually, they'll all feel aligned as well. This is actually now something that I work on through You and Your Story. Not just the external marketing strategy, but the internal story as well. How do you help your team genuinely understand and connect with your purpose, your vision, and your values? Because your team are your most powerful brand ambassadors. You've just got to give them the context and the permission to act like it. If this feels like something that you would like to explore with your team, get in touch. Come and find me, because we can turn your staff into your biggest brand ambassadors. Let's talk about events, because if your brand strategy tells people who you are and your culture ensures that your team lives it, events are a really powerful way to make sure your customers are experiencing it too. I've been involved in organizing many events over the years, and in my most recent role as a committee member for the Midlands Asian Lawyers Association, I've been helping to organise the Marla Ball, something that the legal community in the Midlands actually really looks forward to every single year. And what I've learnt is actually the most memorable events have certain things in them that never really come down to budget. Actually, it comes down to the thought that goes into them and each of the stages. So let's start with before the event. This is actually where most of the decisions are made, but actually where most of the mistakes are made as well. When you start planning your event, you want to be really clear on your purpose. What are you doing it for? Is it community building? Is it networking? Is it lead generation? Once you know what it is, you should start shaping things around that. And then you need to start building the anticipation. Get people excited, because that communication in the lead up to the event is one of the things that will make sure people show up at the event. The other thing to have a think about at this stage is actually the little details that people will notice but won't necessarily say anything about. So parking, accessibility, dietary requirements. Are you asking for the information that you need to make them feel comfortable? Because if you are, they will start to feel like they're part of this event already and already feel more engaged before they even get to the event. During the event, now your job is to make sure every single person in that room feels like they matter. You should be greeting people as they're coming in if it's a face-to-face event, making them feel like they're welcome as soon as they step into that door. You want to create moments, not just content, moments of connection, surprises, laughter, something that someone will walk away with because they will remember how they feel. And the final thing is make connecting easy. If you're running a networking event, make it slightly structured, build in icebreakers, shared activities, so it's not uncomfortable for anybody. Because trust me when I say I know what it's like to walk into a networking event and feel like everybody is looking at you, but no one wants to talk to you. That's not a nice place to be. There have been a lot of times where I've walked in and just wanted to walk straight back out again because I felt uncomfortable. Now I know where I want to be and I have a purpose when I walk into the room, so I don't let that get to me anymore. But I do still see it, and it's not a good place to be for any event. And after the event, this is usually the most neglected stage, but this is where you can start building a loyal customer base. You want to follow up personally and generally quite quickly. Don't leave it for 3 weeks before you say thank you for coming to our event. Send them an email in the next day if you can. You can have it pre-prepared. Include photos, include content from that event, something that they can relate back to remind them that they were there. One of the other things that people forget to do is asking for feedback. Once you ask them for their opinions, they instantly feel like actually their opinions matter. And you can use that feedback to build your next event, to make that one bigger and better than it was. So before, during, and after an event, it sounds really simple, doesn't it? But so many people tend to get one or two of those right. Once you've got all three of them working, that's when you start getting events that are really, really memorable. And people walk away from those wanting to come back to the next one. And that's what you want to create for your business. I want to close today with a story, because everything that we've talked about today, purpose, culture, and events, ultimately comes down to one thing. How do you make people feel? And I've got the perfect example. When I was in Dubai last year, we went to something called the Aura Sky Pool. And I need you to picture this. You're in an infinity pool, the world's highest 360-degree infinity pool. The Dubai skyline stretches out in every single direction. The water is really warm. The music is perfect. Not too loud, not too quiet, just right. The staff are present, but not in your face. They're not intrusive. Every single detail, from the temperature of the water to the drinks menu to actually how they deliver your drinks, has been thought through. I actually didn't want to leave. Not because of the view, though the view was actually extraordinary from every single angle, but because the whole experience made me feel safe, special, and completely looked after. And sitting there, the marketer in me could not help but notice that actually this is what a good brand experience should feel like. It should make you want more. It should make you not want to leave. And that's exactly what this did. Now, most of us, sadly, aren't running rooftop infinity pools in Dubai, but the principle still stays the same. What does somebody feel when they first land on your website, when they first see your content, when they first receive your email? What are those immediate feelings that they're getting straight away? So that's everything for today. From purpose and values as the foundations of internal culture, to the engine of event experiences and actually sharing your brand. It's all one story. Next up, we've got another guest episode. I genuinely can't wait for you to hear that conversation. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this episode if it's been useful. And come and find me on LinkedIn or email me. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. And remember, You and Your Story is here to make sure your story is the one the world won't forget.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.